the Golightly Martial Hour on freedomtalkradio.net.
Okay, this is show, what is it? Is it 58 or 59?
59.
59, show number 59. Okay, can I get the screen capture and the microphone happening all at the same time? Let's get the PowerPoint up, there it is. Press record on the screen capture and we'll figure it all out later. Oh, no, it has to be working. Yeah, it's going. The screen recorder's going. Because here's your lovely fizzog. The shroudy. The shroudy fizzog.
Oh, shroud, yeah.
Herigada.
For Americans, a fizzog in Australia means face.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Now, this is an interesting, I haven't edited it. I've just glanced at it, not making any, so if we come across, spelling mistakes and typos, etc., then you'll have to.
Like dinner plates.
Yes, that's his excuse. That's his Jesus excuse. We'll let him have it. But this is a fabulous, it's all about Nagasaki. Since we've got the false sun, which is the bombs that they made, the Jews were behind it. Jews are behind everything. So they're all out of here. Now, just to let you know, I've been tweeting, as you know, as Yahweh. He's too busy to tweet to anybody, so I do it on his behalf. And I will tell you that with every tweet I send out, I get his okay. And there's only been one or two that he's had me change, but for the most part, yes, okay, send it. So it's all about him.
Only because I'm so weary, that's I'm being pestered.
The view count, as you know, at the reads of the apostolic letter has been climbing as I tweet. Last night before I went to bed, it was 11,269 on the Benedict signed apostolic letter. The tabs were actually all left open as the computer was turned off. And last night I only tweeted once more to Netanyahu, and I let him know that he's dead meat and pronounced the judgment upon him. This morning I turn on the computer, the tabs come up that were open last night, and there's the apostolic letter, Benedict signed, and the view count has been turned back to 3,680. So I'm presuming that it hit 13,680 and they've dropped the 10,000 off. So you can rejoice in that the world is certainly awakening. I've been focusing.
Can you imagine a world where I am in charge and we have none of this bullshit?
Oh.
There'll be no homosexuals, no faggots, no Jews, no immorality, and a matter of fact, we'll have a big flag of Hitler flying over my office. Because
with a pink swastika.
If he'd have done what he has been accused of doing, which he didn't, because there's lots of nice Jews out there that did go through the concentration camps, so they say, but they were bloody resorts. And they were actually away from the bombing.
They'd been saved.
That the Jews who were Churchill, Roosevelt, who were bombing, and Eisenhower, he was also a Jew, right? 25 million Germans died in the firebombing. Men, women and children, not soldiers. We're talking about 1.5 million soldiers that were rounded up after the war by Eisenhower. They were allowed to die in camps of starvation and disease. That was Eisenhower. And it was General George Patton, that said, we're fighting the wrong enemy. 10 days later, he was dead.
Now, that's,
So in other words, if Hitler had taken out all of the religious leaders amongst the Jews and did them in, right? Because I'm certainly going to. Right? Let's get that straight. You wouldn't have had hundreds of millions of people dying since that time. If Stalin had been killed, you wouldn't have lost 100 million Russians. He killed 60 million just by cutting off and banning the production of food. If you grew food in Russia and tried to store a bit for yourself for the winter, First off, they took all the machinery off of the farmers, and if they found you that had been storing food, it was a death sentence, because you're going to die anyhow through the winter, and that's what happened. There's even outbreaks of cannibalism. There was, what was the 3 years, was it Leningrad that was cut off of all food and supplies? Right? The whole city. In any case, it doesn't matter which city it was, it's the dreadful things that happened in Russia.
Now let's get moving on this.
All right, let's go.
This PowerPoint. This is all to do with Nagasaki. The detonation occurred when the tug of the moon's gravity was precisely right for the detonation, not the sun. In all of our talking about how a nuclear event cannot happen without a great deal of planning, and the sun being in precisely
That was discovered
the
by
right position.
Bruce Cathy. Now, I seen his video years and years and years ago, and I thought, yeah, right, that makes sense. You cannot set off a nuclear weapon. Then you got the likes of Lorraine Murray, who said that the Americans in 1964, when the banning of the weapons testing was agreed internationally, they detonated 250 in the 1 year. Now, it takes 2 years to prepare each bomb. They've got to make it. It's got to be precise. So she's part of the bullshit of saying that people are dying from radiation poisoning, when in fact they're not. What they're dying from is the chemtrails. And say, oh, well, there's pilots, they're dying too. They're flying through radiation. No, they're not. They're flying through chemtrails, because they're worldwide. And it's the chemtrails that kill you. Right? Now, added to that, they're probably poisoning the pilots when they land in, stay overnight in various locations of the world, in the food, in the hotels. For example, we flew to Korea, and the Korean Airlines, they own the hotel where we stayed at, luxury, beautiful hotel. So it'd be very easy. You go into the eating areas there, and it would be very easy to poison people and give them something, and especially vaccinations, to have these people come down with all sorts of diseases. And we also have the Ronald Reagan that had now got 70, or even other reports are there's a few more, up to 100 people that were sailors on board the Ronald Reagan. They were 100 miles offshore and they got radiated, and so therefore they're dying from all this radiation. But God bless America, you can't sue the American government to look after you, right? So they're suing Japan for the fallout that's caused the radiation of Ronald Reagan. However, it doesn't happen. You cannot be hurt by radiation. Plutonium is one of the safest things in the world, and the reason they are doing all this is to stop people being aware that plutonium is so safe, that there's so much power from it, God's gift, right, that it can supply a whole suburb with a small reactor for $20 per year for all the electricity needs. So all your industry that takes about 80% of the production costs in farming, for example, 80% is for energy. With plutonium, you can have all sorts of free energy to run and grow. So therefore, this is the most important thing in the world, is plutonium.
And is why it's...
That is why. They're burying it underground. They use up 7% of the rod, and then they've got to get rid of it because it's so dangerous. In actual fact, you can handle a bloody thing with your bare hands. It's all bullshit. All right, carry on, Donna.
All right, so it's all about Nagasaki and the position of the moon. It has to... The key was the position of the moon, not the sun. Now, on the Julian day, which was the 9th of August 1945, Universal Time 2:02. Julian day was 243.1676.5842472, rather, 0.58472. The age of the moon was 1 day, 1 hour, 11 minutes. The moon phase was 1%. The distance to the Earth was 61.7 Earth radii. Excuse me, I'm going to...
Well said.
Oh, and there's other numbers there.
I'm going to get one of those dog collars for you to stop you sneezing.
Oh dear. You'll have to go to the YouTube to look at the PowerPoint to get all these other numbers, but we're focusing on the age.
Well, the age of the moon was 1 day, 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds.
Yes.
And the percentage of the moon being full is 1%, but it's probably, I haven't really delved into it, but I can almost guarantee you that it was 1.11%.
It was lunation number 280 as well, which
So within
means
seconds that would be
gestation.
that number, right?
Oh, here I go again.
I just ordered 2 collars, I should have got 3, Sandra.
It's early morning here. Can you move your chair just a fraction, please, because it's caught up? No. There we go. And what's Charlie doing in here? Oh, okay, so Adam's...
What are you doing here?
Yeah, Adam's left, so he doesn't want her to follow. He's gone to the bus.
Come here. Let the camera see this savage monster. Oh.
It's about to get a...
We're getting you a little barking collar, aren't we, dear?
Oh, darling.
That'll stop you barking in the morning, annoying all the natives.
This morning was the garbage truck. Okay.
Barks at the ducks, swans, people walking past, dog next door. Bloody hell. Carry on, darling.
So, Nagasaki, the detonation occurred when the tug of the moon's gravity was precisely right for the detonation, not the sun. It was not about the sun, it was about the moon. Human gestation, of course, is 280 days. It was lunation number 280. Now, the sun's distance in miles.
What's 280? Human gestation.
Human gestation, that's what we just talked about, babe. In miles was 94,243,007.
Jesus, verse total and verse total for First Chronicles. The key verses of the identifying me.
All right, so the new moon, August the 8th. It's the 219th day of the year.
August the 8th, I'll go, you go and sneeze somewhere.
You can,
August the 8th in 1769 was when the Messier comet was discovered. And if you add 8 days to that, it gives you the date of the Milky Way galaxy being crossed, lining up with the Mayan calendar. It was sighted by Cook and 20 days later, 22 days later, on the 30th of August 1769. If you add 8 days to that, it gives you my birthday in 2013. So I'll carry on because it's gone into the sneezing frenzy. Now, this is where you really should be looking at it on the YouTube, because we're going to upload it. And it gives you all the drawings, it gives you the numbers, many of these things you can miss. For example, the Earth moon distance from the Earth is measured in this particular program in Earth radii, and it's 61.7 Earth radii. So you look that up as Isaiah 61.7. But the 1111, of course, is 11th January. And it's also supposedly, I've been told, I don't know whether it is or not, because I don't really give a damn about what the Satanists do, but apparently it's a evil number. So the distance to the moon in miles is 244, get this, 666. It's 11:02 in the morning. That equals 3972 seconds, which is Saul, Satan, or Paul in the false apostle, which is Lucifer, of course. It's 280 is the lunation number of the moon, and that's human gestation. Now, it goes on, 312, my name is Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall in English gematria, is derived from all those numbers. The sun distance at in kilometres, 151,669,423. This is, in fact, 94,200,000, which is 942, which is how many times the word Jesus. The actual distance was 94,243,007 miles. So we've got the age of the moon, 1 day, 1 hour, 11 minutes, and the moon at 1% full. And in actual fact, I'm saying with my equipment 1 day, 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds, and the moon was 1.11% full. The 219 number from all of these numbers above is the cock crow. In other words, when you hear the cock crow as a third crow, that's when Jesus' figure is announced. Next slide, measuring from Nagasaki zero detonation point to the moon, then to my rebirth home of 942 days, is 11111.1 kilometres. Hello? We go back a slide. What am I telling you? The age of the moon, 1 day, 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds. Go to the next slide. The distance from the moon, from Nagasaki to the moon location to my rebirth home is 11111.1 kilometres. And just below that you see New Zealand, which I'll mention shortly, is 888 miles between latitudes. So when I tell you these things, it's coming from several different directions, sometimes 20 to 30 different directions that all link together in a synchronistic dance. That is how I created it. That's why I can tell you what it is now, because I remember it. Each day I get worse, as a matter of fact. It's very annoying because there's so much stuff there I just can't tell you. Right? I drive Ash nuts with it. The moon position for Hiroshima measured to the maternity ward of my rebirth is 7953 nautical miles. That is, in Hebrew concordance numbers, the word is sholah, a primitive root rather cognate by contraction to the base of 5394 and 7997. That's what scholars use to pinpoint what a word is. And they're congeners. Okay, so it doesn't make much sense so far. Through the idea of extracting, to draw out or off, to remove the soul by death is the point. To remove the soul by death when they bombed Hiroshima. Therefore, the first bomb on Hiroshima represents the cross. The distance measured from the moon position to the maternity ward where I was born represents the 3 days when the moon position to birth home from Nagasaki via the moon position on August the 9th is 11111.1 kilometres, and this is absolutely precise because I'm doing it with Magellan, and I've got 5 different programs of Magellan software which I've had for years and years and years, and they're not online. They're absolutely guaranteed to be accurate within a few feet.
And now you know why
And
I'm
now-
the editor, because
What?
Magellan was my nickname at school.
Magellan?
Magellan.
Was it?
Yes.
Didn't you? I thought your nickname was Greensboro, because that's when you rang me up. You said, "That's cool. I was called Greensboro, and you live in Greensboro."
Nell.
Oh, Nell, because I live on Nell Street.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's,
right,
that's what my family called me. But at school that I went to, I was nicknamed Magellan.
Okay, we could end this here right now, and if you was any of these world leaders, I would be very, very concerned, because I'm proving 100% that I'm 70 years of age. You've been trying to kill me all these years, ever since I was born. Nothing's worked,
Yes.
right? I got half a heart, I got leukemia, I've been shot at, I've been pushed off cliffs. It doesn't matter.
You've lost all of your blood through a punctured kidney when
I completely drained the blood, didn't make any difference.
you walked out 6 days later.
That's right. So we go to the next slide. And this one is the moon position. It shows you the area. So what we are saying is that if you measure with this other Magellan program I've got, it gives you the following. Here we are measuring from Nagasaki on the 9th to the moon position on the 6th of Hiroshima. The area is Jesus, 2424386 square nautical miles. This is why you should be watching this on YouTube to see what it's actually, because it's I put a lot of effort into this. Get your finger out your ass and go watch it. For fuck's sake. Like we were talking to Peter yesterday. I can only watch for 5 minutes, then it loses me.
Yeah, he was talking about other things, babe.
No, he's talking about watching my videos. You said it to me before.
Okay.
Peter, get your finger out your ass and watch these things. Right, you're sitting in the bloody garden with the Messiah himself and you haven't got time to watch him? For fuck's sake. 2424 Jesus is Jesus, and 386 is resurrection, raised to life again. That's the area between where I was born, to the moon location, and Nagasaki. That's the area within that triangle. Jesus.
It's amazing, isn't it? Stunning.
Well, it's creation,
Yeah, of course it is.
right? I can talk for days underwater about these things, but no one can listen because they haven't got the sense or the intelligence to follow it. Maybe the children in the future will have. You can follow it. That's why you get stunned by it. You're a very intelligent woman. Right? You're probably the most intelligent person on the planet. What?
Well, I was thinking about Kim's message about the latest crop circle.
The key of the House of David. Now here's the Nagasaki. Next drawing is more precise because I zoom in to make sure you can see what the computer is reading. This is all computer stuff. Right? And I'll go to the next slide and it shows you again. The 9112 is the average age of the patriarchs and their names total 3168 in Hebrew gematria, which is Lord Jesus Christ in Greek gematria. As well as I was 9 pounds, that should be a spelling mistake, 9 pounds 12 ounces when I was born, and I was 22.22 inches long. Right. My mother was very pedantic about that sort of stuff. She knew she was in labour for 55.5 hours, which is Christ, right?
Yes.
So my mother was an idiot smart when it come to numbers, right? And that's, you could say that's where I get it from, but she got it to pass on to me in that sense. So what we're talking about is the length of the three sides of the triangle, which contains an area of 384 square miles, right? Now, it's actually 386, but with a slight movement of my hand, I couldn't get it to hold it on that point, right? That's how accurate the thing is. So I was 9 pounds, 12 ounces, and that's the average age of all the patriarchs, and their names total 3168. Is there a message in this? Hello. So we have an area in kilometres, which is 8324386 for the three sides. It's 1691.6 kilometres. Now, we're talking again. My hand cannot get the area precisely right. However, it is very close to being 1694. Right? From 9691, right? So we'll go with how my hand held it, and that's as best I can do by zooming in from the close of the crosshair of it. And that number is 8324 to be hostile. Now, I should say that large number, when you're taking into consideration, it ends with 8324386 square miles. That comes up with a 386 again to resurrect from the dead. So, do you want to carry on from there?
Yes,
I'll get a bit stiff-necked leaning over.
Seem to have stopped.
I'll take the little doggy for her.
Yes. The garbage truck's gone by now. She can go outside.
Go chase the garbage truck, little doggy. Going straight out the front. Down the front.
Yeah, bring it back, because, yeah. All right. Okay, so we do the same from Nagasaki to the sun position on August the 6th, 1945. So that was the day of Hiroshima. Hiroshima on the 6th and Nagasaki on the 9th. And the distance we see is part of the reason why the dates were set, as the time frame was determined by the age of the moon and location on the two dates. We have therefore two locations for the moon and the sun on the two dates. So from Nagasaki to the sun position for the Hiroshima detonation tells us 5,098.2 kilometres, so 5098 from 5097 is vindication. That is a penalty, punishment. Therefore, the time selected for Hiroshima saw the sun position setting a trap for these Satanists. that cannot be altered. It is this precise location, as is the impact ground zero detonations. Nagasaki 3 days later on the 9th. 3 days is 4,320 minutes, which is the speed of the solar system northwards in miles per hour. That's 43,200 miles per hour. Now the detonation Hiroshima, 9:15 a.m. The detonation for Nagasaki was at 11:02 a.m. So the difference is 4,427 minutes between the two times. That word is morlak, which means to reign, ascend the throne, causatively to induct into royalty. And then the length, the new length of that triangulation. Is this right, Hunter?
Hello?
We're going over, I've covered this, but the new length of the length was
Well, you're changing to
3,168
miles.
miles. Oh, I see, okay.
So you've got 3 different areas you can choose. You've got nautical miles, which is for sea. You've got miles, which is the standard miles comes out of England, which is now the US. And then you go to kilometres, which is French.
So the difference between the two sun positions between the two different days,
Yeah.
Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so it was
what you're doing with a
3168.
computer, you can say, oh, in my program, I can set up Nagasaki sun position at the moment of detonation. And that gives me longitude and latitude. Then I can go to Hiroshima, which is 3 days prior, and I get a longitude and latitude of the sun position. When I measure between the two, it's 3168.5
0.5 miles.
Lord Jesus Christ, and 5 is Father. That's how precise this thing is.
Yes. All right, next slide. Now the 7.
Okay, see that line there? We've
Yes,
got
the blue, that's the
70896. That's the new leg.
Right.
Is 0.8. So why is that? Because my hand moved.
Right, but it's back to your
But
rebirth
the original
location.
number is 7089.6. That gives you the area, however, and you've got 2 numbers there, right? You've got a heading, the 75.98. Even the heading can be read,
Yes.
right? So we also have an area of 6581214 square miles. Now, doesn't matter if your hand moves a little bit, you've got the distance as a length, that's correct. But when you reach a point, if your hand shakes slightly, it'll give you the extra. And what I'm showing here, if you're watching it on the internet, is the 0.08 is my hand movement to, I can move that to another point, right? So if I was to now take that 0.08 would start climbing up to maybe another 2,000 or 3,000 miles.
Ignoring that, that's
Just to ignore it.
Yeah. No, the point is that what we're showing is this is a triangulation
Right.
between the sun position of Nagasaki, Hiroshima, back to your rebirth
Right,
location.
and the number
to
is
give-
terror,
Yeah,
destruction and terror.
right.
Now, I don't think that these people were that smart. The moon determines the position of the sun, of course, because when you read the moon position, which was what they're going to set the bomb off, because it has to be, it is revealing sacred numbers that they had no idea was going to be revealed to cut their nuts off. See what I'm saying? If the scenario is this, the moon has to be in a precise position and had to be so precise to the second when they drop it,
Yes.
right? That's why they practice for 9 months with from 30,000 feet to hit within 300-foot circle. As Bruce Cathy said, what difference? If it was just a matter of dropping a bomb out, why not just drop it out the bloody plane anywhere over Nagasaki or Hiroshima? But no, they had to have a 0 point. It had to be, and in fact, if you was to look at the map of Nagasaki, where they dropped the bomb, I said, what a stupid place to do it. It was right next to a river, right? But they had no choice because that's the only place it would detonate because of the position of the moon. So therefore, once that is determined, then we also have a latitude and longitude of all the planets. We've got Pluto, we've got Mercury, we've got all. I haven't even done those yet. I will, right? But the sun is the important part because it is the next largest gravitational field. And it is determined by the position of the moon and the moment of detonation. And therefore, we end up with these numbers. Here's another number here to Nagasaki, showing 11901.8 miles. The new leg, which is going back to Nagasaki, is what I'm showing there, is 4812.3 miles. The heading is 342.26 degrees. The area is 6581214. And you think, well, this is getting very confusing for me. Well, hang on there. Your bloody life depends on it. Me telling you what the bloody truth is. The truth will set you free, right? Doesn't give a fuck if you understand it or not. And so, dear friends,
All right.
the bearing, the heading is 3422, which is a record of a memorial, and that is what they have in the bloody ground, where the impact is a memorial spot. And what do they call it in Nagasaki?
I don't know.
What is it? The Peace Memorial. Like, hello? They just got bombed with a bloody nuclear weapon. They call it a Peace Memorial. That's the location of the Nagasaki mound where they've got.
And the new leg number, 4812, is to lead away as booty, seduce and spoil. And that's exactly what they did. Japan became subject. It was seduced and became subject to
You've got to remember
USA.
how this all comes about. All life has a soul, and the soul cannot be destroyed. So that's why I say, fear him that can destroy both body and soul in hell. You're in hell right now. If you don't think you're in hell, there's something wrong with you. Huh? I determine where hell is, and you're in it. So watch out, Netanyahu. Watch out, Obama. You're all dead meat. Right? There's nothing you can do. That's why they're trying so hard to destroy the world. Hitler was right. He should have cleaned out all the rabbis in the first place. Kept the nice little people and the youngsters and the women and so forth, and raised them up in paradise in Germany. But he underestimated that the Jews had already taken over the likes of, through the Rothschilds, the Balfour Agreement. He didn't have any idea about that. And that is why the concentration camps were set up. They weren't concentration camps. In fact, it could have been proven by that asshole Pope John Paul II. Why? Because during the war, he worked for the RG Farben Company, which is the largest chemical group in America, in Germany and Europe, right? They even supplied the rails for the trains to be built in the middle of bloody Poland, right? Where the camps were. They supplied all the materials, and they also supplied Cyclone B. And guess who was the man who delivered the Cyclone B to the camps? And he knows precisely how much they used.
Cyclone, yes, it was.
Who was it? John Paul II, before he became a pope. He's the man who could have said, I only delivered 4 or 5 of these canisters per month from the main company, which is not enough to gas anything more than the bugs in the clothes, and this is what it was used for. Hitler was a saint. And that's why every time you see, we watched a James Bond movie yesterday, and here's this thing in Russia, and James Bond's in there, and of course they're saying, oh, we've got to get James out. The Navy is going to bomb and kill a couple of 100 terrorists in one go, right? This is the British, and they're sending a rocket out. The next thing, James Bond, he just gets out in the nick of time, of course. But what are they talking about? Plutonium, how dangerous it is. The very first words out their lips, putting down plutonium. And that is why these James Bond movies and all those kind of things, that if you watch and read, what they are actually always condemning is the things that's so good for humanity, which is plutonium. They always make it out as a bad, evil thing. Carry on, my dear.
All right, so the next position, the next slide we're looking at, this is Nagasaki to the Sun Hiroshima position, back to the rebirth home at 105 Rothschild Avenue. The area of 2116554 with a heading of 108.39, and the length of the 3 sides is 9,907.9 miles. Now 2116 of the area is crushed. Hebrew from 2115, trodden on, that which is crushed.
So isn't that what the bomb did?
Yes.
Right. Anyhow, go
Well,
on.
not only that, this whole series is identifying absolutely the devil in man. Now, we know all who, and they are about to be crushed
Right.
by God Almighty, who in one of the most horrific acts.
How does God, what is the prophecy of how God comes to the earth and he crushes the nations? What is it? The sword from the mouth.
Two-edged sword.
From the mouth. I don't need to go and have my angels crush you, because my job is to come down here and to prove absolutely I can do it by myself. I could call along 100,000 angels at any moment. I don't do that. I don't need to. I'm saying, come kill me, do what you like. I'm trying to wake up the intelligence, and the children of the future are going to look back and say, what a bunch of stupid bastards our parents were. Right? This Christianity bullshit, and the Muslims, that's even bloody worse. And of course the Jews, they're going to say, hey, he was our Messiah. Just like Kaduri said. He even convinced that other asshole, one of the worst men in history, that leave the reputation of Hitler being an evil man, he was nothing, right? Ariel Sharon. He suddenly had a change of heart. He was going to form a new party while he was Prime Minister.
He did. He formed a new party that's...
was going to withdraw all of the occupation because Yitzhak Kaduri had told him that Jesus was the Messiah and he's back. Right? You don't hear about that on bloody CNN, do you? Why? Because it's all owned by the same bastards. And what they tell you is complete lies. What about all your children in America? They got bloody 60 vaccinations by the time they're 2 years old. I say don't vaccinate anything. They've got poison in them. Right? They're even saying now, people who are in the know, saying that the children will not survive their parents. They've already given them a death knell. Woe unto the mothers that give suck in the end time, right? Make me sick.
So here we have the same again, Nagasaki bake, 3 days to the sun position for Hiroshima, then to the rebirth home at Rothschild Avenue. To the home via the sun, 4428, from 4427, a king, royal. Everything is proving God on the earth. Nagasaki to Hiroshima, sun to rebirth home. That's the triangulation of it on the slide on the screen over at the YouTube channel. Hiroshima to Nagasaki, moon position to the maternity ward is 10118.8 nautical miles. 1011 equals the David verse total in the King James Version 1611 Bible. The 4230, this is the new leg of that triangulation, number is a compass and is how they did it. 4230 from 2328, an instrument for marking a circle, that is compasses, compass. 455 in the area, the area is 4552179 square miles, so that's 4,552,179 square miles. 455 is open in Greek and the height of the pyramid. 1011 or 1011 is my mother's rebirth date. That is October the 11th, 1912. So
the date they poisoned me in Egypt last year.
It is actually 10/11/12. Yeah. All to do with the revelation. Hiroshima to Nagasaki is 161.8.
Now Google Earth that, because that's where you get the information, and it is 1628. I've added an extra mile. This is wrong. The short distances, they're reasonably accurate if you want an approximate. But if you're going to be precise about it, you have to go and buy the Magellan, or send me a message and I'll send you a pirated copy.
So this is the moon position over each day. So 3 days apart. The difference in their positions on the Earth is 161.8. And that is the life Fibonacci number to be destroyed. Then the next leg is Hiroshima moon position, then the Nagasaki moon position, back to Hiroshima. So 4 legs totals, 5451, which is the pyramid height in inches. The next slide, Hiroshima to Nagasaki 161.8, was not a lucky guess, it was intentional. However, when we look at where the bomb was detonated in Hiroshima, it was not the center of development one might expect to do the most damage.
It must have really annoyed them. There it is on the river.
Yes, here is the slide. Hiroshima to Nagasaki both show healthy trees after the bombs radiated the cities. Radiation is harmless, so this is the regrowth of the area.
There's no deformed children. Badly burned children, as Mr. Windsor said, you get too close to the sun, you're going to get burned. That's why you put a hat on when you go out in the sun. The same thing with a nuclear reaction when it's producing power. You get too close to it, it'll burn you. Same thing, it's the same energy that's coming off the sun. And that is what the book of Revelation alludes not to tell you, but the revelation of the Essene does tell you. It tells you precisely that men have taken the power of the sun, and we have the charred bones, which is referring to Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yes. It's the being burnt to a crisp. Here we go. Here's Hiroshima, healthy trees and near a river, a poor military choice. It's called the Hiroshima Hypo Center. Now the next picture is an area formed from Hiroshima, the 6th of August 1945 detonation, then forward in time to the two positions of the location of the moon and sun at the moment of detonation of Nagasaki. The top left is Hiroshima, center bottom moon on the 9th, and right is the sun on the right.
Just to explain what you're saying there, you're not watching it. The top of the triangle is the point of Nagasaki explosion. The right-hand side, if you read it properly, it tells you what that is. The left-hand lower, the centre of the screen, it tells you what that is. So it's the points of the moon. What is it? I didn't read it myself. Yeah, the moon and the sun. At the moment of detonation.
This is why I always like to go through them first so that I understand what it is you've written.
What's wrong sitting beside you?
Yeah, and you're having to remind yourself, what did I mean there? All right. Okay, so the bottom line is the total area is 4,152,394 square kilometres. The area today being computer generated was not available in 1944 to 45 era. Therefore, improbable the area revealed was intended. But it is what they are, driven by a demonic spirit. 4152 from 4151, non-carnal. That is, humanly, ethereal, demonically, a spirit. 10,
that's what's driven them, right?
That's what's driven them. 1089, a primitive root to palpitate, hence causatively to terrify.
So let's just roll back and see if you get your mind around this, especially if you're watching this for the first time. The giants in the old days had mated with women. The reason that it was giants before the flood is because of the earth itself is the creation. It's the first in the creation of all matter. And what happened was the heavenly realm pours through into the other dimension. At the center of it is where the energy from heaven creates the energy from the center of the earth. And then it spills out in all directions, a molten ball of iron. And then from there, it is rotating, because this is what happens. When something comes into position of power like so, it rotates. The speed of its rotation causes the gravity to be much less, so therefore these huge animals and people were 20 to 30 feet tall, right? If you lived then, being 20 feet tall is normal. Just like today, if you're 6 feet tall, it's normal, right? So what caused the gravity to drop was when the Earth was bumped into by Mars, and all the water from Mars pumped itself and pushed out all of the air, and the animals that were in the area where the air was pushed out and up, the temperature of space is 455 degrees below zero Fahrenheit, then the animals were frozen standing up because there's no air. They died immediately and they were standing up. They didn't collapse. There's other areas of the world where the animals have been washed down rivers. So this is where, let's say in Utah, a place called Urgel, there's 145 animals been killed, and they've been washed down a river, and they deposit on the corner or a bend in the river, and they call it a sandbar, and that's where all these animals have been drowned because of the flood. But the other animals in the north part of the world, they are frozen standing up because all the air had been pushed away, and they were subject to the no air of space and the temperature being so low. So we've got water rushing off Mars, raising the level of water 168 feet, and that is why the guy who with the CIA equipment discovered the Russian subs in 12,000 feet of water, Dr. Ballard. But for his reward, he was allowed to use it, and he discovered the Titanic with it. Later on, he done another project for the American CIA, another Russian sub. They were trying to get the weapons off it. And again, he was given a reward, and he then sailed around with these bathyscopes that he had, or whatever you call them, and found that there were cities in the Black Sea 168 feet below sea level. So that's how much water. You take the area of water of the earth that is 168 feet deep, scoop that off, and that gives you back to the land mass height of the oceans prior to the flood. Put that water back on Mars, and it shows you the actual Martian landscape before it bumped into the earth and the water was displaced. Now, the rotation of that iron sphere at the centre, which is a couple of thousand miles across or more, it was stopped, and therefore the gravity increased, because it's the rotation of this iron ball of molten material that causes the magnetic fields of the earth, and that's why it's getting less each year, because it's getting slower. Now, it's only since the flood, and we're talking 7,000 years ago, that this occurred, right? And that's what happened. The gravity increased suddenly because the rotation of that ball, caused by the moon being the planet Mars bumping into it, pouring all the water onto the earth, and the impact stopped. Can you imagine something as round spinning in a perfect environment? All of a sudden you get a planet bump against it, it puts it all out of shape, and it stops. This is pushing mountains up and all sorts of things with the impact, but this pure spinning rotation molten ball, no longer is it pure spinning, because it's now oval shaped and it's all over the place. And therefore that's what slowed the rotation of the iron, and it's been slowing down ever since to today. It's almost stationary. Clear as mud?
Yeah, clear as mud. Let's move along. We've got 50 slides to get through in 10 minutes.
Well, you can't do it.
At the moment of my rebirth, 11th of January, 1944, 2:22 a.m., the distance to the moon was 249,602 miles. This takes us over to Job 28:9. He putteth forth his hand upon the rock. He overturneth the mountains by the roots. Because we're looking at the word rock, which is 2496. So it's 2496 that we're looking at. Rock in Hebrew dictionary from 2492. Flint. Flinty rock. In Greek, it is Jehovah raised. Now the sun in kilometres at 1,471,477.7 kilometres. 4777 is suffer hardship in company with. 1471 from 1722, swelling inside, that is pregnant, great with child. And this is the distance from my birth home to my first wife, birth home, to Michelle, who is Mary Magdalene, and our home with our stepdaughter, my stepdaughter, and back. That's the three sides of the triangulation there between those three locations. Now,
The distance you're trying to say is 1471 kilometres.
Yes.
Between the three sides of the home I was with Mary Magdalene, Nell Street, which is on a latitude that is 5813 kilometres from the South Pole, the height of the finished pyramid with the capstone in place, because it's rejected. It's the whole idea of the Bible. The stone the builders rejected That's what it's all about.
Now the
And
area...
the distance around the Earth is 31680 kilometres. So therefore, the three sides total 1471, which is in kilometres, which is the same number as the distance to the Sun at the moment I was returned to the Earth on January the 11th, 1944 at 2:22 a.m. Hello, are you getting it?
And a hello is a 3-10 in Greek. And as Adam's name, hello! All right, so the area now, we've got 37,800 square kilometres. So between the three locations, Mary, Michelle, Eileen, wife number 1, and your rebirth location, an area 37,800 square kilometres, 3780
It's just a coincidence, you know.
to grow fat, be covered with flesh, be covered. Compare 3680. Now, this is compare 3680. The altered count, the views over at the Scrib site overnight. They've taken off the 10,000 and they left it at 3680. It was at 11,269 when I went to bed. This morning they've censored it down to 3,680, which is in this presentation that we are doing now, after the fact, which means covered with flesh.
And quite a lot of it around my midsection.
Deuteronomy 32:15, but Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook God, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. Here is the slide. Whoops, I'll move.
You've lost it all now.
No, that's it there.
Keep going back.
Oh, there it is. This is the slide between the three locations. Nell Street Home, 5813 kilometres from the South Pole. The height of the pyramid in inches. The three sides totaling 1471. And the area, 37,800 square kilometres. The next slide. Okay, still continuing with the area numbers, 378 from 303 and 4137 in Greek is to complete, to accomplish by coincidence, or coincide with a prediction, accomplish, after be complete, and be fully, preach, perfect.
And you end up with the 37880 number,
Yes.
which is your number count on the views of the apostolic letter.
No, it's
Of the
368, so that must have been a typo.
Carry.
Okay.
Quit while you're in front.
All of the older generation in New Zealand know the islands. Well, it's still in the PowerPoint, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All of the older generation in New Zealand know the islands lay between two latitudes, 888 miles apart. The most easterly tip is on the North Island. It is 5,813 kilometres to the South Pole. The completed pyramid height with the capstone in place of 5,813 pyramid inches. Draw a line to the west coast along that latitude, then to the maternity ward, then to the moon location at 2:22 a.m. on January 11th, 1944. It contains an area of 7,886 kilometres, found only once in Genesis 49:10. The sceptre shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Shiloh in the Hebrew dictionary 7886 is an epithet of the Messiah. Hello, Shiloh. And of course 49:10 is my name. Morshal, to rule, have, make, to have dominion, governor, indeed reign, bear, cause to have, rule, ruling, ruler, have power.
It's only found in one verse, it's 49:10, and 49:10 is mashal in Hebrew.
Right, now we have a blank screen.
Well, don't worry about that. What time are we up to?
54, we've got 4 minutes.
Well, you can end it there
Okay,
and start. I'll keep the PowerPoint running.
all right, okay.
So now we're going in, what I was telling you before, we're going into another-
Galen Windsor,
Galen
the
Windsor,
nuclear expert. Oh, do a couple of slides for the next few minutes?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right. So Galen Windsor was a nuclear expert. This gentleman was the leading world expert on nuclear radiation. He died at age 82 of Parkinson's disease. In his 35 years of handling plutonium and cesium-137, he was responsible for designing storage facilities. Just right there, talking about Parkinson's disease, all of these diseases, it comes from the weaponized mycoplasma. Long before Galen Windsor, it was in the food chain. This is where all diseases come from. I will reread the Donald Scott document. I've done it before. And so this is Galen Windsor. It was the mycoplasma in the food chain, in the wheat, in
Nothing
tobacco.
to do with radiation.
Yes. So after decades of handling plutonium with his bare hands, laws were continually being passed that appeared to make it appear the metals were dangerous. He finally concluded there was a conspiracy to keep the prices of the metal high, and artificially termed spent at 7% used. This left 93% of the spent rule had to be buried to safeguard the general population.
Instead of running it right up and using it all up, right? No, they stop it at 7% to keep the prices high, and then the spent fuel rods are so dangerous, they've got to have this myth going around in all the United States where they said, oh, we've got to bury this stuff somewhere. It's perfectly harmless, right? They want to bury it for future so they can use it at their leisure when they run out of, if they ever do, uranium. But the price of it was raised to a point where it's so ridiculous, like 5 grams are worth $5 million. But that's enough to run a bloody ship for 30 years at sea.
Okay, so nearing the end of his career, he began touring the USA, demonstrating that it was all a lie. He said he would swim daily in the pools containing the fuel rods, even drinking the pure warm water. The industry were concealing the low cost and safety to make it appear dangerous to protect the industry. In his lectures, he demonstrated plutonium was perfectly safe. If the general public was aware just how safe it was, the demand for cheap electricity would collapse the industry and cause a demand for small reactors to be built in the suburbs, eliminating outrageous costs as well as the vast transmission lines. A home electricity bill for as little as $20 a year. Any home could plug in and draw as much electricity as needed, unmetered. It could also be used to power vehicles. A US 80,000-ton aircraft carrier could steam at 35 knots for 25 years before it used up its fuel. The ramifications are so disastrous to the status quo, the masses would not be ripped off any longer. The cost of goods would be low. All farming, for example. Presently, the costs of goods are 80% for energy. So the cost of goods, 80% of that cost comes from having to pay exorbitant prices for electricity, fuel, diesels, whatever it is that is needed, controlled and metered by the devil. Galen Windsor, this is his photograph, describes his hands-on experience with used nuclear fuel and radioactive materials. He explains how the rules associated with his profession changed during the period from 1947 to 1982. He also questions why those rules changed and who benefited from the changes.
You look at the man's photograph, he's over 70 there. That's one handsome looking healthy man.
Yes, he looks
For
pretty
his
good.
age. Right, all dark hair, no problem. A little bit of bald on the back, perfect skin, no. This is what plutonium does for you, right?
Well, let's get some.
Yeah, get some on eBay, will you?
So what is Fukushima and Chernobyl all about? The reality in 1986, Russia was still controlled by the communist Jews. The meltdown occurred when the operators were told to shut it down. It was during this process it was sabotaged. Then came the fear tactics. 600 helicopter pilots died because of their flights over the reactor dropping water. Bullshit, did not happen. 2,000 square kilometres were cleared of homes. Then came the deformed animals, cancers and fruit trees contaminated. 28 years later, we see people who live nearby the reactor are healthy children eating the fruit. Something is wrong. The Fukushima meltdown reported the reactor 3 had MOX fuel installed by the Israeli security company. Illegal to use weapon-grade plutonium for fuel, but despite a ban on the fuel, they installed it. Then the meltdown. Reactors 1 and 2 reported to be 3 times the danger of Chernobyl, and number 3 with the MOX plutonium, 2 million times more deadly.
I'm not sure it was 2 million or 20 million.
Oh, she said 18 million.
18 million.
Reactor 3.
That's that Lorraine Moray again.
Right. Smell a rat here? How can a material that can be handled by Galen Windsor for 30 odd years and he still remained perfectly healthy? How is the number 20 million times more dangerous be arrived at if you were to ask the experts like Windsor? It's not dangerous at all. We now know absolutely a nuclear bomb cannot be detonated without a great deal of manipulation, and only when the moon is in the right location. We know that anyone who exposes the underbelly of the criminal occult, the CIA will kill you. In Mr. Bruce Cathy's case, he was smart enough to reveal how they do it via the harmonics of the sun, which was a decoy since it is the moon. A case in point, his videos show the position of the sun for Japan on August the 6th and the 8th in 1945.
It should be 9th, actually.
9th, okay.
No, don't change it.
All right. What is wrong with the drawing? That line is from the Earth centre
Well,
to
I'll
the
tell you what
sun
it is.
centre.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I do explain it.
Yes.
Where Nagasaki is above where the moon is, above where the sun is in relationship to the Earth. So therefore, the drawing is showing the sun above Nagasaki. Right? It wasn't there. It was below at 10 degrees, where Nagasaki is at 32 degrees.
Right.
So the drawing there is, he would not make a mistake like that. He's showing you that this is not what it is. And therefore, we've got to go to see what the most powerful magnetic field is the moon. They can lift the seas all around the Earth and gives you the tidal effect.
Okay, so the sun is shown to be in the northern hemisphere. In point of fact, it is south of Nagasaki at 10 degrees 6 seconds. And Nagasaki, there are the coordinates at 32 degrees north, 46.524 east. Longitude 12951.785. So the sun is at 10 degrees, so it's way below where he's showing it to be. The sun is shown to be in the northern hemisphere. Here it is again. Mr. Cathy was purposely showing the drawing was completely wrong to throw the CIA off his back, as they would have killed him.
He's too smart, this fella.
Yeah. It's a bit like
He said he didn't go to university because you'd never be able to do any of the math he does by what they teach you in university. So he looked into it. Right?
Yeah. He said he had been contacted by the CIA after he went public with how atomic bombs were detonated when the sun was north of Japan, when in fact it was south. He
So
does
there's
not
the two
mention the
drawings
moon. Yes. I suggest it was to create a misinformation position to stop being a target by the CIA. Oh, yeah. Listen to those birds. Wow.
He's agreeing with us.
Johannes Kepler, who lived 1571 to 1630, published his works, Harmonics Mundi, written in 1619.
That means harmonics of the world.
Yes. He was well aware of the older science of harmonics of the planets. I describe it as follows. It is similar to several balls swinging around an axis held by a string. The string is the gravity which is interacting with other spheres as they also swing around the axis. Is the sun. The greatest magnetic string is the gravity of the moon, and it is this Bruce Cathy appears to be referring to in the nuclear detonations. It is obvious he was misleading the CIA. He was a pilot of 35 years and knew exactly the position of the sun. Therefore, the obvious was the moon's gravity. He said he could not have worked it all out had he gone to university, aware of the corruptions aimed at misleading students.
Now, the Aboriginals here in Australia, they have a little thing that they swing around their head on a string or a rope or bark, whatever the case may be, and it gives this harmonic sound. You might have heard it if you've watched any of the Australian movies. They always have one in there, like a bloody kookaburra. They've got to put that in all jungle movies, but it's actually an Australian animal. But this thing, they swing around its head. I think it's called a woomera.
Right.
Right? They go, that's the string making the sound. So the gravity of the planets does the same thing. They make sounds. But the sounds we hear on Earth, because of it's coming to us not in sound waves, it's coming to us in a magnetic wave, and the magnetic wave is what he's talking about.
Okay. Now we should end. We're way over time.
All right, end it then. Start again.
We'll be back
Well, why not
later.
carry on?
All right.
And you always trim it up if it doesn't go up, because quite often these shows that go up go over and people still listen.
Well, yeah.
Because you can go listen offline, right?
Okay.
So carry on.
All right,
It's
so
not
here it
finished.
is. Like strings, the gravity hums in planetary harmonics.
I just said that.
Yes, you did. That's because you knew what was coming next. Here we go. Here it is on the...
Well, there's an example. I've got 3 planets and the sun. The planets are rotating around the sun. We have off to the far right, that's Neptune, and then you've got Saturn, and then a little bit closer in, you've got Jupiter. So we've got very large magnetic effects of these, and this harmonics is what we're talking about, because it's coming to us. Some of the old timers in the ancient times could hear it, right? And because of the gravity being changed prior to the flood, etc., it was different sound that they would make. Now, I want you to go back up a bit to that one.
This one?
That's very important, you're missing it.
Right.
Like strings, the gravity hums in planetary harmonics. Now, the point here, the distance from Jupiter to the Earth and the Moon is the same distance on a specific date. And that date was the 7th of the 7th, 2014. So we've got as numbers 7, 7 and 14, which is 7777. Right? Now, it's quite rare to have those distances, because when you add all those planets up, the distances from Jupiter, and we're showing there Venus, Mercury, the Earth, and Mars, the total distance is, in astronomical units, is 28.61, which is the displacement factor of the Great Pyramid, and I'll explain it as we go through. But you might see it here.
Here it is.
Okay, there it is there. It
So
shows you the time. It shows you, in fact, the cluster of the smaller planets. These are the solid planets, which is Mercury, which is closest to the Sun, of course, followed by Venus, followed by the Earth, and then Mars. They're in a cluster. I had difficulty trying to zoom in to get them to actually switch on because of the cluster. They were magnetic. In the astronomy program, it's affected by the magnetics and distances. So Mercury itself wouldn't switch on. I had to play with it and maneuver because I knew it was there, and then it clicked on, which is the photograph you see there. And then the moon wouldn't come on either, and I had to manipulate around to get the moon to come on. So it was very difficult. It took me half an hour to get them to show up on the astronomy program because the cluster is so close together, right?
So here is the exact timing, 18 days ago from this recording, on the 7th of July, 2014. So you're 7777. At 5:33, the distance between them all, 28.61 astronomical units.
This is Nagasaki time, or Japanese time, which is 9 plus GMT.
Right. So now you have 10:36 minutes. That's what the time of 5:33 is. It's
Now I'll explain what that
1,036
means,
minutes.
right?
Right.
When we're manoeuvring the planets around on that clock there, I could move it by minute. And what would happen was it would click into the 28.61 astronomical unit position and then would stay there for 1,036 minutes and then click out again. So what happened was I then went to the centre of it. So you take the 1036 divided by 2, which gives you 518. So you add 518 to when it first clicked over to 28.61 astronomical units. Then that's a midpoint between the two, because what you have is it was Mercury that's moving fastest, and it's Mercury that determined it. So Mercury, it rotates around the sun in 88 days, right? So as it's ripping past, it's changing its distance from Jupiter, obviously. So therefore, for only 1,036 minutes was it in range to give us the 286. So therefore I went to the centre of it.
Right.
And that gave me a time of Nagasaki 5:33, and that's how I arrived at that.
Okay, good.
Clear as mud?
Clear as mud.
So you can see from another angle, we have Mars to the bottom left, we have the Earth and the Moon at the exact centre. Why is that so? Behind that is Mercury, and behind on the other side of the Sun is Mars. You think, all right, why? Well, the reason is the distance to the Earth and the distance to the Moon. Again, this is the sub-second hand. You can say Mercury is the second hand. This is the 100th of a second with the Moon flashing around, right? Because the Moon is moving much faster around the surface of the Earth in relationship to the Earth than is Mercury. Because Mercury is the 88 days, the Moon takes 29 days. All right, so you're breaking it up into time sections. But to have it so that the Earth, and at that moment, when the distance was 28.61 at 5:33 in the morning Nagasaki time, we have the Earth and the Moon exactly the same distance to Jupiter. So I can't express more strongly the coincidental nature of this perfection at that moment in time, right? You won't get it, I know, because you're all too stupid, but I can assure you, this is phenomenal. Carry on.
All right, so the moon distance, 384,113 kilometres, or 238,676 miles. 3841 is universal, sovereign, almighty, omnipotent.
Right. So here it is, on the 7th day of the 7th month in the year 2014, which is 7/7, going on Nagasaki, which is just above Australia anyhow, the time of 5:33 saw the moon distance to the Earth, saying Almighty God, omnipotent. Right? That's what it's saying, the sovereign, universal sovereign. I'm giving it to you to prove who I am. And the distance in kilometres proves at that moment, and only for that few seconds, because the distance, let me explain it this way. The moon is moving across the surface of the Earth very quickly. The distance it travels also varies in distance from the Earth, right? So we've got a distance around the Earth is travelling at a point in time. We have the distance to the Earth and the speed of it. I've also worked out the speed of it. So what that's telling you is the man who is talking to you now is Almighty God. Why isn't CNN telling you, or the Jews? They're the chosen people, aren't they? Because they're not. They're of the devil. They don't want you to know. That's why they're kind of trying to keep me quiet, and I'm still 70 years of age and still haven't been able to kill me. I'm the most dangerous man on earth, identified by the Pope. Right? The Pope wouldn't get any of this. Right? He hasn't got the mind for it. So what are we saying? The distance from the moon to Jupiter and the distance from the Earth to Jupiter is exactly the same. At the point in time when the moon from the Earth is saying Almighty God, omnipotent, universal God, right? Universal sovereign, Almighty God. That's what it's saying. Then you've got all this cluster of planets that are around the sun at the same moment that gives you a distance from Jupiter. Why Jupiter? It's 88,806 miles wide. No, 88860 miles wide. Right? Times pi is 31680, Lord Jesus Christ. And then we've got something like that. And then we've got the distance of the 4 planets, not counting the moon, combined to give you 28.61, which is the displacement factor of the Great Pyramid, which we went into when they gave me a heart attack. They had to stop it. But I had suffering 11 heart attacks on October the 11th last year, because that's my mother's birthday. And that is the number for King David. That's how many times the word David is found in the Bible, right? 1011. DAVID in English gematria multiplied by itself is 3168. Hello, are you following what I'm going here? So this picture that we're talking about here is absolutely the greatest thing in creation.
I've stopped, stunned. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about that crop circle on the 22nd, which is Tuesday, just gone by. It's a key.
Of course it's a key to ask David.
But not only that, it's that point in time is key.
I told you how important it was. That's why I said it's bullshit. Why do I do that?
No, the other dude, the idiot. But the diagram itself, the idiot that was trying to explain it.
Yeah, the diagrams are key.
But the actual crop circle, take a look at the crop circle, Wiltshire, 22nd of July. It's a key. It's all to do with this. I'm looking at the slide right now. And Kim was right.
Of course she's right.
Because she saw it last year.
I said the guy's bullshit.
Yeah, I know. The guy's bullshit. That's what I told her. I said the guy's bullshit. However,
she said you're the key.
She said you're the key. You are the key.
No, me? Oh,
no,
you?
Talking to me.
Oh, you're the key then.
Because I said, it's to do with it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You're the key. It's all about you. I just happen to.
Okay, there's a close-up of the moon. You can see how perfect it is over the moon's surface. And where is it? There's Australia. Well, I'll be dashed. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not sure whether I've actually worked out the distance from the moon position to my birthplace there, because I was being rushed along. But carry on, see if I did it or not. I've forgotten.
Revelation 21:24. And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple thereof. So there is the distance, 3841. The all-ruling, that is God, as absolute and universal sovereign, almighty, omnipotent.
It's going to sound good for the kiddies in the future when they watch this, little 5-year-olds, and it goes blip. And I say, what's a blip for? That's when the Messiah was saying, fuck. So there's another view of it.
Yes. This is the displacement factor, the 2861.
Now, it's a little bit out of proportion there because I wanted to get Jupiter into it. Jupiter is actually out this way. If you take that as a right angle, go through to the Earth from the Moon to the centre, to the Earth centre, and go out at right angle, straight out. Jupiter's out here, way out there. Right? But you can't put it into a drawing, so I just put it there anyhow.
Amazing. The distance between them all, 28.61 astronomical units, is the displacement factor, the dotted line, chiselled line marked out the pyramid base at 36524.24 and then moved inward 4 blocks, there should be 286.1 pyramid inches. This is the displacement factor, 3623 and 2861
See,
equals.
this is the kind of things I want to look at, but because when we're there,
yes,
you're constantly bombarded.
It's impossible.
By people. Now, It reminded me of the life of Brian when John Glees says, get that baby out of the Messiah's face. There's a woman there, she's got a baby, and she says, oh, the baby is this, trying to beg money out of you, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the baby. And we tell the people, oh, give me the medical records and I'll cure the baby for you.
No, we'll give you some silver water. Come back tomorrow, we'll cure the baby. You won't have to beg for money anymore.
They drive you crazy,
They shove
Egyptian
prescriptions
maniacs.
into your hand. So,
and I'm having a heart attack.
Okay, so displacement 286 is lamb in Greek, 1 is alpha, father and son, 2861. Here is the pyramid.
The red circle there is showing you where the corner sockets are, which have been marked out in fine lines, chiselled lines, and then they started installing the blocks inwards. So that gives you the displacement factor. That means when you reach the actual land mass height, and this is built before the flood, so they reach the actual land mass height, which is going to be today, after the flood, would bring the water level up. But if you level off all of the mountains above sea level today, it is the average height, would be the height of the pyramid up to the rejected capstone. That's how clever it was to be built prior to the flood, to know all these amounts of water that's going to be coming from Mars, to raise the level so you get an average landmass height after the flood, which is the same height of the pyramid, and that's the same number in feet as is the distance in time, in weeks, from my mother being married on the 20th of July, right? 20th of July, which we just passed, in 1934, to my conception on the date of the resurrection, Australia time, which is forward by 10 hours over Jerusalem, and it is the same number in weeks as is the height of the pyramid in feet. Right? Are you with me?
Now, a little tidbit about this address. We're looking here at the womb of Amma, the 114 pyramid inches height. This address, without the numbers in it, just North Shore Avenue, Toogoom, Australia, has a simple gematria.
You just told them Assad where we are.
I didn't give them the number. And it's all over the internet.
Didn't give them the number.
And it's all over the internet.
That makes me do.
Yeah, I know. Look,
There's only 6 houses in the fucking street.
it's all over the internet, Dave. They know where we are. Helicopters everywhere.
What did I say to you this morning?
What?
You are the most intelligent woman
Yes.
on the earth.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get a bit over enthusiastic when I make statements like that.
Listen.
You do a good job. Carry on. What you didn't notice here, I did this years ago, right? And
Yes.
there's the Amma. There's your name in there, right?
Yes.
Before I met you.
Yes, I know. No, yeah. Well, this
Carry
is what
on.
I was about to tell them.
Was you going to say that?
No, the Amma. Hello, this address is Amma. 522.
So,
From measure, which is what God does, and that's only with the letters, not with the numbers. When you add in the number of this house and the postcode,
don't tell them what the number is, whatever you do.
I'm not. It totals 5280.
You just told them by telling the number now.
I haven't told them.
You said 5280.
Yeah.
You subtract one from the other, gives you the street bloody address,
There's
doesn't
two
it?
numbers there.
It's very scary, isn't it? Look, there could be people here coming here to try and kill me.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, let's roll out the red carpet, shall we? Come in and have tea. We'll have a coffee and talk all
Have a
about
cup of
it.
cyanide
have
on
a
the
cup
house.
of, yeah, absolutely.
Right, carry
Yeah,
on. You're
like,
doing well.
He's just joking, folks, when, it's the banter between the two of us that is pathetic most of the time. It's like the prophetic. It's all very pathetic.
Did you say pathetic or prophetic?
Well, both. They rhyme. I never said one without the other, even before I found you. All right, so...
So the point is that drawing is given the address of the house here.
yeah, right, okay. It's
Which was
not
done in
radiation.
1992.
Yes. 1992.
And this house, from the solar eclipse, and that's why I said, she's always saying to you, oh look, here's a house we can rent. It's got 5 bedrooms. You're allowed doggies.
I have
and it does
restless-
this, and it's had that, this, it's got that, and
I
blah, blah, blah.
suffer from
It's lovely.
restlessness syndrome.
She's driving me crazy. Here's me trying to work all this stuff out. Losing that. Come and look at this. Here's a house. It's
That
got
was-
2 acres. We can grow this. So fuck's sake, shut up about. Didn't I not say to you last week, I ain't moving? Shut up.
No, it was
And I've told
about
you
4 weeks
over and
ago.
over and over again.
Of course he has.
The distance from the solar eclipse
That's it.
of 8.8 miles on the 25th of January 1944 to where I was growing up until I was 942 days old. Right. And the distance from that solar eclipse to here is Almighty God. Not
right.
next door or down the street or some fucking farm 300 miles away. Here. That's why I said I'm not moving. And those marks on your neck is when I was dreaming the other night and I was strangling you if it kept on going on about it.
But I haven't been.
Only because I told you to shut the fuck up about it.
And I have.
Thank you. You just mentioned it. All right, carry on.
Yeah, because I'm just reinforcing what you've been saying.
Reinforcing? I've had this for 2 years. Oh, it's a lovely house. Look at this one. It's even got that. It's got this. It's got that. And you're allowed this. And you can grow there. I'm not moving.
I have moved.
Shut the fuck up. I don't want to
have
know.
moved 45 times in my life, being 2 years in one place.
And you ain't moving again. Keep going.
So what have we got? It's not radiation. It's 11 o'clock. We've got to finish this.
Keep going.
Today, the animals are dying. The west coast of America is dead. Therefore, what is the radiation decoy?
Why are the
concealing?
pilots dying?
Chemtrails. It's all
Flying through the
chemtrails.
chemtrail.
It's mycoplasma. It's mycoplasma first. Chemtrails are only set up to set off the mycoplasma. I'll read that document later. It's GMO. Wheat belly. Sherry, you're right. Wheat belly.
Of course,
The
Sherry's right.
sewage.
Very intelligent.
Treatment plants pump sewage into the sea.
She
The
doesn't
human
wanna
waste
move.
is enormous. Food in America is 90% GMO, and that is a poison that kills off the small sea creatures at the bottom of the food chain. Chemtrails dump enormous amounts of poison into the air. This has been ongoing since 1970. Clouds of poison rain down on the mountains, poisoning the streams and the rivers. And it is this that is killing all life in the sea off America. It is not.
Not to mention the 50 to 60 million people along the coast of America that have a crap every day, and that is all the GMO food that's spewing out of their intestines, which have what is called Roundup, similar, because of the bacteria in the corn, which is in all the products in America, has got in it an assassin for the bugs.
It's
So-
glycophosphates, it's the
I wanted to say that. Go on.
glycophosphates in everything, it's the detergents.
So
which
you are,
carries
all
the-
of you in America, not only are you all stupid, but you are producing for the beast, your little body is a factory that produces all this crap in your intestines, which goes off into the sewage treatment plant. And I can assure you, what happens is they just skim all the plastics out and the solids out of the sewage treatment plant and then pour it out into the sea. That's what happens. Now in London, they're taking the same water and purifying it, to be fed back into the chain that you drink. So when you're in London and you're sipping a cup of tea, you're eating someone's shit. That's how perverted these assholes are.
So Fukushima is another misdirection to kill you and blame Japan as if it were a worldwide concern to Western nations. They would insist on sending nuclear experts, that they're all part of it. The Samson option, it's all to do with the Jews' Samson option. If they can control the Christian mind, remove Jesus by killing you all as Christians are the true chosen of Yahweh Jesus. Therefore, as all media is dominated by the same liars, they allow their trolls to scream it's all nuclear when in fact it is GMO food and the chemtrails. The insanity of these Satanists are like insane demonic children, not intelligent enough to comprehend what righteousness and love is. Their Torah Talmud God appeals to their psychopath nature, and the world has fallen for the word of Lucifer Bibles. The GMO causes the gut to change the human stomach bacteria into the chemical called Roundup or similar. Therefore, how much human waste from 50 million people along the west coast since early 1970 has been pouring into the sea, as well as animal grass eaters like sheep and cattle that evaporate into the clouds. The Jews are not about doing anything out in the open. The die-off started in the ocean years ago. Therefore, to divert attention, Fukushima was caused to occur. The next point is the 70 to 100, we've already talked about this, 100 sailors off the Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier suing Japan for radiation poisoning caused by the meltdown. The carrier is supposed to have been too close to Fukushima and the entire ship was radiated. If this is so, there were 5,000 in its crew. How come only 70 have illnesses allegedly caused by radiation? Surely the 4,900 other crew members should also be sick. No, it's vaccinations all planned out in advance. We drove from Scotland to England. We saw 40 or more aircraft dumping vast quantities of chemicals day in and day out. More surprisingly, the general public was apparently unaware. What is in the chemicals that affect the brain to be totally unaware what is raining down upon them. Another scam is the carbon tax. The media reports the earth is heating up. The chemtrails reduce the rays of the sun. The reality is the planet has been cooling for 20 years, but 30 years ago there was talk of the oncoming ice age. Cut off the sunlight and we see that pregnant women require sunlight for vitamin D. This is why a cat licks its fur. When a child starts to grow teeth, the lack of vitamin D causes the teeth to be easily subject to decay.
And then you need fluoride, don't you?
This is an indicator that the entire health of the child is compromised. Add the 60 vaccinations by age 2 and the children are doomed. Your fault, Christians. Some 30 years ago, it was the ozone scam. This caused every refrigerator and air conditioner to be degassed. Changing the gas was big business. The mechanic had to drain off the gas and store it in a tank, then take the tank to a gas supplier and pay for its safe disposal. Today, a $20 bottle of refrigerant gas costs $400. Who made a fortune off that scam? How do they do it? Simple, they own all universities and hire only those professors who will be easily manipulated. Their professor will bark like a trained seal, whatever the world order eugenics dictates. Ask the question, why is it the likes of Lauren Murray, the expert being interviewed on countless YouTube and radio shows, reporting on the effects and warning the world about Fukushima? We contacted her and, as expected, silence. Our people have contacted David Icke, ignored. Alex Jones, ignored. This asshole is peddling vast quantities of iodine, and he says when the radiation gets really bad, he's going to take his Jewish wife and kids south of the border. In fact, we have contacted scores of news media, only to be totally ignored. The new Antichrist Pope was told about me by Pope Benedict XVI, as were all of the cardinals told before the conclave elected Bergoglio. They were all told Christ is back. The job of a pope is to hold office until Christ comes for his bride. As Benedict was speaking to me before the conclave, he, the highest ranking official of the church, announced Christ was back, should have been announced to the entire Catholic people in all nations. However, the devil in Francis does not give up that easily, and so I told Benedict to wait it out. The devil must run its course. In summary, there is no nuclear threat. Bombs cannot be detonated via rockets, nor can the Jews detonate hidden nukes in all cities. Think about it. These demons are threatening you all with death. They have poisoned your children with vaccinations. The foods in the USA are GMO. Your bacteria produces deadly life-killing weed killer. You shit it out. It gets into the sewage system and ends up in the sea. And then the shit weed killer kills the plankton. Therefore, before you wake up, the Fukushima meltdown was pulled off by the Israelis and deflects the truth that it is the chemtrails and genetically modified food like corn and soy that you are fed 24/7. A wise man once said, and I am sure you will agree, regardless of me,
it's all bullshit.
Have you left something out there? Okay, so the Bible is a complete deception to promote a tribe of subhumans as the chosen, who in secret plot the destruction of all those created in the image of God. The espousal numbers 2861 and 36238.14 or 3628 pinpoint via the altar to the Lord in the midst of Egypt, it in the heart of the beast Egypt, is the same reason why I was reborn on Rothschild Avenue. Jeremiah the prophet of the royal tribe of Judah rescued the daughters of the murdered King Zedekiah, taking the daughters to Tara, Ireland, to rejoin the royal cedar twigs with the ancient brothers of Judah in Ireland of 1521 BC. Jeremiah states quite plainly of a nation, Egypt, where the word of God was not sown. The same reason why it is Egypt, locating the altar to the Lord and revealed in its dimension the rejection of the Lord. Quoting, "Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, Thus saith the Lord, I remember thee the kindness of thy youth, the love of thine espousals, when thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown. And Solomon, who married Pharaoh's daughter and the daughters of the Ammonite and Moabite out of Sodom, fathered via incest by Lot, whose number is the same in miles from the North Pole to the Bohemian Grove of sacrifice to Moloch, the owl." Then 2 Peter 2:7, "And delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked." That number, Greek Dictionary 3091, of Hebrew origin 3876, Lot, a patriarch, Lot. English gematria of 717, that number 717 is Armageddon in the Greek
So
concordance.
that verse has a value of 717.
Yes.
Now let's go explain before we go too far along. You've got the Great Pyramid with the capstone cannot be fit because it can't be built any higher than the average land mass that was determined prior to the flood, when the water of Mars, which was calculable by the experts at the time, which is Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, that would raise the sea level up to a point where the bit sticking out would end up, after the impact of Mars, would end up to be the average height, the same number as the Great Pyramid. So, what have we got? We got the displacement factor, which is the base being laid out at 36524.24. Shrunk down by 286.1, means that when the capstone comes, that's the last bit you put on the pyramid, is now. And therefore, it is rejected. The stone the builders rejected has become the head of the pyramid. That's the words. They say head of the corner in the Bible was changed. It was Essene, head of the pyramid. Psalms is all Essene. So what we end up with then is I have the problem of sorting it all out for you and saying Egypt, where they have Isis and they have the Virgin and all that kind of thing, are all copies of the original Methuselah work handed to him by his father, Enoch. They call the Jews and the Freemasons who examine the Great Pyramid, they say that the base of it at 36524.24 is 100 years, when 1 pyramid inch equals a day. And this is the age Enoch was when he ascended. They call it the Enoch Circle. However, Cain's first son, he named it Enoch. And the first city was built and called Enoch by Cain. The last city is, of course, the holy city. There's 777 verses with the word city. So therefore, it starts with evil and ends with good. And it has to be accomplished by the Lord himself coming to the earth to explain these things to you. But you're all too fucked in the head to understand what's going on, in particular the Christians. Don't even talk about the Muslims. What a bunch of morons they are. Right? Nice people, but they are stupid. Right? Christians, they're stupid and they're evil. Because they support, even the Muslims don't support the bloody Jews.
Look, reading Bibi's tweets and some of the things he's really upset about the UN, saying that needs to be an investigation
Who's saying
into
this?
Israel. The United Nations Human
Right.
Rights is saying that needs to be an investigation of Israel and what they are doing in the Gaza. So Netanyahu is spewing, well, you should see all the support he's getting from the Christians. My God, I slammed them.
You see, what these Christians don't realise is that they're going to the bottomless pit with him.
Yes, they're all expecting to be raptured. Well, I've told them very plainly, you're going all right.
Going to hell.
It's not, it's the meek who inherit the earth. They're the ones that
Children,
remain.
if you can't be like a little children, listen to what your father is telling you, there's something seriously wrong. And the father in this case is God, which is me. So, carry on to the next slide.
Okay, so Solomon, who married Pharaoh's daughter and the daughters of the Ammonite and Moabite out of Sodom, fathered via incest by Lot, whose number is the same in miles, from the North Pole to the Bohemian grove of sacrifice to Moloch. Now, quoting, "Go forth, O ye daughters of Zion, and behold King Solomon with the crown, wherewith his mother crowned him in the day of his espousals, and in the day of the gladness of his heart." Now, the same day after the crowning of Solomon, he murdered his brother Adoniah. Adoniah was the son of David via his fourth wife, Haggith. He was the true heir to the throne.
He was righteous.
He was righteous.
Before David sinned with Bathsheba and murdered her husband.
Yes.
All right?
Adoniah means worshipper of Yah. And so the audacities of the Jews who demand world admiration, proclaiming they are the chosen people who are behind every abomination to destroy the earth, knowing Christ is back, and fulfill the prophecy of Hitler. His prophecy was that unless the Jews are stopped, the earth would be left a lifeless orb floating through the ether of space. Here, this slide is Moloch, you've all seen it. Fire burning in its belly, the sacrificing.
What they used to do is take children, and if they had a poor growing season, for example, well, the god would demand that you take your children and put them in the furnace and burn them alive.
Right. Quoting from John 8:31 and 32, "Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, If ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." The verse ends there, but God has added, "free of the devil, Judaism, and the false prophet, Bergoglio." And this is Yah's judgment. He's saying, my judgment. Not one Jew will enter the kingdom of God. My angels will gather and cast them into the bottomless pit. My holy seal will never be broken, and their cries will not be heard, and their former existence forgotten. Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the absolute and universal sovereign, almighty God, omnipotent.
And it ends with the Shroud of Turin, which Pope Benedict recognised as being myself.